So my name is Jared Thomas Johnson. My pronouns are he, him, they, them, and I'm directing Scottsboro Boys, which is so exciting. So here's something that I think has been a big topic of lately in theater, in particular when we went back from the pandemic. You had a lot of Black works coming out, and there was this conversation around Black trauma in shows. And so this show is from 2010, right? And then the Broadway productions and then the London productions proceeded shortly after. Started off Broadway, moved to Broadway, then went to the West End. I think at the time when the show debuted, there was still a lot of Black trauma plays. And I think there's an appetite for plays that just share more about Black experience. And I think this play gets kind of lumped into, I think personally, the wrong category. What I'm excited to play is not what we deem as the trauma from that time period. Clearly, we've got to be truthful about the impact that they had into our historical legislation, the impact they had to us culturally, and the fact that, a lot of what happened to the non-men or boys at the time, they became men through the process, which is sad, right? But there's really a humanity, there's a hope, there's a beautiful spirit that we get to stand on because of what they were able to do as young boys. And what I'm hoping to do is talk more about that folks walk away with the hope and the inspiration of the 9 boys versus the trauma. Because I think, trauma is just part of all of our human experience, whether it is when our parents yelled at us or when we, first touched something hot and we learned, oh God, I can't, don't touch fire. I think we've got to start recognizing that that's really what sometimes that word trauma is, right? Like sometimes it's what makes us better, makes us human, makes us be able to exist, and we're really better for it. Now, clearly, some of the trauma that we're dealing with in this show it's bigger than what I just said, obviously. And some of it we've got to eradicate, of course. But it is also who we are, and we've got to pay homage to that and be inspired by it, not just always triggered. And that's my goal, is to make sure this is a beautiful experience for folks to stay inspired for what's next. I'm inspired by not just the Central Park Five, but also, if we think about the root of the artists that created this, who did Chicago Cabaret, and I can't help but think about Cabaret, where the backdrop of Cabaret is really this thing that we know is happening that is scary and one of the worst atrocities in mankind, right? But through song and dance and through entertainment, we not only do we understand human experience, but we also understand underneath that what's happening in the world that can make life just impossible for some folks. Those folks in the civil rights movement, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., they were the ones that were inspired by Scottsboro Boys. That's why they kept pushing. It's an interesting, legacy that they have, not just because of how they changed laws in America, but in particularly how they influenced the civil rights movement. So for me, it's so important that we hold on to that. But then we also, if we look at it historically through, not just historically, but we look at it through cultural references, and that's why I go back to Cabaret, is that play for me, when I first saw that play, I just felt its significance in understanding how things are happening and you're not paying attention to it. You're just wrapped up into the entertainment. You're not wrapped up into what's really happening around you. And I'm hopeful that that's what we'll see with our play as well. And that's a really great lesson for today. I mean, we've got a lot going on in our world today. We just had there's elections happening in a couple of years. There was elections just previously. And it's important for us to be really part of the conversation. No matter what our beliefs are, we've got to be part of the conversation. I think this play is an interesting comment on that. I'm lucky to work with really great folks, and that's one of the things I'm really excited about this show. We've got some really wonderful artists. We've got more than just that 11 black men, but it is the first time that I've gotten to see 11 black men singing and dancing on stage, and I'm so excited about it. But their collaboration, I think, will be what finds that. If you think about at a funeral, one of the worst days of some people's life, there's tears, there's laughter, there's joy, there's remembrance, there's every human experience in that day. And I think it's important that we stop always making something be just about what's the worst part of the hour, but really it be all those experiences all in one. And that's what I'm hoping we do. And I know that the actors are engaged in that. So I think they're the ones that are finding it because they're motivated and excited not to just be, here's what's so horrible about this experience, but here's what the humanity is about this character, who they are, to learn more about each of the boys, so that I think you as an audience member walk away thinking, okay, I know these young men and young boys, and I'm inspired by them the same way they inspired the generation that became the Civil Rights movement. That's the beauty of watching a musical, watching a play, is that you get to be entertained for an hour, 2 hours. You get to take your mind off of your own things that are going on and just enjoy a play. You get to go through the emotions of laughter and joy and hope and inspiration. And I'm hopeful that they will find that they will be inspired, they will laugh, they will be entertained, and then they'll be reminded of days in which there were a little bit harder, but guess what? There is growth on the other side of being inspired by our ancestors. And we continue to inspire each other.